Welcome everybody to the MiniMapCast. This is minimap.com.au's weekly games podcast, your favourite weekly games podcast. My name is Kerry Palmer, and joining me, as always, is Jeremy Braditich.
Fresh out of Dreamhack.
That intro still getting you?
Still funny to me. So I wrote that part especially, and when I wrote it, I was like, "That's funny," and then just like
you didn't write your favourite weekly games podcast, did you?
I think I did.
I thought I wrote that.
I think I wrote something along the lines of that.
You wrote the latte bit. I mean, you wrote a lot of it.
I mean, I wrote
but
nearly all
I'm pretty
of it.
sure I came in with that start bit because I thought I put that in, and I was like, "Oh, that's cheeky. That's fun."
Well, like I think I had something along the lines of, and I think you tightened it up.
That sounds right.
And then it's still funny to me.
Yeah, it's fun. I like it. It's good that I remember to do it, especially.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
Kerry,
1 week ago, you and I sat down in these very chairs at this very desk, and we recorded a podcast, MiniMapCast episode number 120, in Rec Room in VR.
In Rec Room in VR. What an exhausting thing to do that was.
That was exhausting, but can you believe that was only 7 days ago?
That's fucked.
Why does it feel like it's been a month since that happened?
It feels like it's been forever. So what's happened since then? I've been to a convention. I've been putting together the next couple of projects that I want to do. We've been playing The Last of Us. It hasn't been that big a week, but I think it was more that was such.
Yeah, I didn't even go to a convention, and I'm still. I still can't believe it.
It was such a almighty effort almost that it was like there was just a lot going on, I guess, on that night.
And I wonder if maybe because it was in VR, because it was in a separate space, because it was a bit more involved, I wonder if it's just a bit of a thing for our brains.
Maybe.
It's a bit like, oh, this ain't right.
It was a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. It was good though. It went well.
It was quite cathartic to get through it all. Because I'm finally so hilariously a couple of days after you edited that podcast, and so I had a couple of days to sort of do my own thing. I was getting stuff ready for the convention. My partner is now currently in Africa for the next 10 or so days. And so I was helping them get ready for their trip. And every single day I woke up going, I don't have to be in VR today. Because I was going in really often towards the end, especially because I wanted to get as much info as I could. And I had a moment of
you just had to prepare yourself?
Yeah, until yesterday, I still had my headset on my desk, which was my reminder to hey, do work.
Yeah.
But it's done.
It's done. And then you deleted a bunch of footage then too, which was good.
I deleted 25 gigs worth of footage before we were recorded because I was running out of space.
The true catharsis.
Yes.
The Windows recycling bin, otherwise known as the digital barrel fire for you to put your shit in.
Yes.
Well, we've got a few things to talk about. A couple of things that we foreshadowed ahead of this episode last week. Something that I'm completely surprised by, that I really don't know where Jeremy's going to go with it when we get there, but I'm excited to get there. But first, we got to get with the intro. Welcome everybody. Thanks for being here. You can catch us every week doing the MiniMapCast on any podcast platform of your choice, or you can watch us on Twitch as we record the show live. If you like what you're hearing, please give the show a positive rating wherever you're listening to us, whatever that rating looks like. Sometimes it's a plus, tick, heart, thumb up, star rating, whatever the positive rating is. That would really help us out if you could give that to us. And if you want to join us live in the chat as we record the show, we're live every Monday, 5:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, or Daylight Time, East Coast Australian Time, at twitch.tv/minimapau. Before, during, and after the show, like I said before, we hang out with the Twitch chat, which is great. So we're talking about how the audio file syncs up. We might check that out later in the show, rather in between different parts of the show or at the end of the show. So it's always a good time feel free to come and join us. Be sure to keep up to date with us as well when we post a new episode or anything else for minimap.com.au. You can do that by following our Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch accounts. That's MiniMapAU, at MiniMapAU for all of those. It's a great way to know what the topic of each week's show is and to know when it's coming out. For example, last week's was the aforementioned Metaverse deep dive of Jeremy's. Where we, I still love that we recorded that whole thing in Rec Room. I think that was a stroke of genius.
Yeah, I had that walk. I was walking home from work one day, and I messaged you being like, "Hey, don't let me forget this really dumb idea I just had." And it was a Monday, so I was going home to record, and I was like,
"Yep,
remind me when we get on call what my hilarious dumb idea is." And I was like, we should record the episode in VR. And I thought about that for more than 10 seconds, and I was like, oh fuck, that's so much work.
Yep. And I also thought that like I wish we'd put like more, just a little bit more thought into it, because as soon as Ollie said, "Oh, can we come and sit in Rec Room and watch?" I thought that would have been so fun. Although we would have to then deal with like if we had it public, then it would just be awful behind us. People would be like photobombing the whole time.
Yeah, like it needed to be secure.
Yeah, well, that's like some of those first rooms that we were looking at, where it was like they wouldn't
Twitch
let people onto the stage, but people could sit in the crowd. Yeah,
it would have been that would have been cool.
Yeah. So that was last week. Next week, what are we recording for next week, Jeremy? Is it... No, that's Sega. We did that. Do AA games only have a space to release on Game Pass?
It's not because we're offset by a week. It's the Mario ranking episode, I believe.
Oh.
I think.
Oh, when are we going to get to AA games?
After that. I gotta fix that up.
All right, okay. So we're going to be ranking Mario games next week. We clearly know what's going on. But ranking... What kind of Mario games? We'll figure that out. Every Mario game. No, you won't believe how high Mario Teaches Typing is up on my list.
Like games that you could describe as a Mario game.
Yeah, Mario Teaches Typing. And it's also a good place to find a bunch of our stuff when we release written word as well. This week we're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 1 for the topic of the show. But we're also going to be talking about Jeremy's time at Dreamhack Melbourne, which was this weekend. So it's a packed episode. We wanted to say thank you to Shook for letting us use the Moog Model D Improv as the music for the MiniMapCast. You can listen to more of Shook's music at shook.bandcamp.com. Lastly, if you want to help keep the lights and mics on, you can throw $5 our way and become one of our patrons. It helps us to continue to do this. You can ask us questions to answer on the podcast, and it's as cheap as an... What? Oh, I looked away. I thought I could do it without looking. Hang on. You can ask us questions on the podcast, and it's as cheap as a latte with oat milk. There we go. You could do that by going to patreon.com/minimapau. One more week, and I'll probably have that. One more week. Jeremy.
Kerry.
This front half of the show is yours. I did not go to Dreamhack because I'm a big scaredy cat, and like I'm hardly going outside my house right now, which is a bit sad, but we don't have to get into that. But I did not go to a gigantic convention in Melbourne this weekend. You did. How was it?
Look, it was not bad. I've got some video here which I'm gonna play. There's only
it's Jeremy.
It's me. It's just there is audio. I think you should be able to hear it now. I think I've routed it correctly. This is my time at Dreamhack, which if you're not familiar with, which as far as I'm aware, it's everybody in Australia. Dreamhack is largely an esports, electronic sports convention, as they say. Friend of the show, Ollie, likes to call them athletes as opposed to athletes. It's an esports convention, which is a little bit almost nostalgic for me because many years ago, I feel weird that I can say that now, in 2019, the first convention that I ever went to as a part of...
2019?
Yes.
You went to PAX in like 2013, didn't you?
No. Let me finish. In 2019, my first convention that I ever went to as accredited media
yes,
was the Melbourne Esports Open.
ESO.
ESO. Pour one out. Rest in peace. This is basically the successor. As far as I'm aware, a lot of people who worked on ESO worked on this thing.
Oh wait, it wasn't ESO. It was MEO, wasn't it? Melbourne Esports Open. It was,
yeah. This is just footage is playing. This just by and large my time in the Dreamhack. There's the bridge across Flinders.
I love trains.
Yeah, right. Yeah, man. Melbourne Esports Open. Melbourne Esports Open. What's up? I'm here.
Jeremy's talking.
I'm at Dreamhack Melbourne.
There's no one there.
Okay. No, to be clear, I went upstairs away from everybody so I could get away from the crowd so I could talk to the camera. This is not a good representation.
Check it out. Here's Dreamhack.
This is not an accurate representation of what's around. Always, when it's the first of a convention, there are many funny little quirks going on. About half an hour late to let us in, and now there's nothing to do and things aren't open and none of the expo hall is. I can walk in, but everybody's set up and none of the computers are on and everything's still getting working. A press pass, which is cool.
Press pass. It's red.
It's behind me there. Hanging out.
Oh, nice.
So here we go.
I just love how no one was behind you.
Yeah. So Dreamhack was interesting because I went on the Friday and the Sunday because I woke up on Saturday quite tired. I was like, you know what? Doesn't matter. I'm gonna just take the day. Needed a weekend. I was fucking exhausted after last week. A lot of the video that I'm showing is B-roll. I'll turn the sound up when it's something important. It's a convention. I went to a gaming convention for the first time since PAX 2019, and I forgot how much I loved gaming conventions.
You do love them.
Friday was pretty weird. There was a lot of things that were not quite set up. It was regarded as a student's day, but it was still very much open to the public because a lot of schools were coming in. And there was an area dedicated to panels, which was not panels for the following days. And there were a bunch of schools coming in as well, which I think is kind of neat that they have schools coming in and doing some of this stuff. But it also meant that Friday, I think a lot of people weren't really taking it very seriously in terms of things were getting set up a lot while I was there. I was walking around trying to find stuff to do. A lot of the booths weren't finished setting up until like halfway through the Friday. And so it was really weird. So there was kind of just not a whole lot to do. It's worth pointing out that the footage I'm showing is a mix of Friday and Sunday. So like, don't think that this is what Friday looks like. This footage is a mix of both. It's at Rod Laver Arena again, like the Melbourne Esports Open was, which I think is quite a good venue for this stuff. But I think that the Expo Hall area, which is the area adjacent to the arenas with all of the games, was much smaller than it was in the past, and there was a lot less to do. There was about, I'm going to say 18 stalls kind of thing.
Wow, like you can count them.
Yeah, no, so to walk from one end to the other, it was about a minute and a half. It's a really small area.
Like the tennis, but with computers.
Yeah, that was one of...
printed on a big banner.
That was one of their slogans, like the tennis, but with computers, because it was at Rod Laver. The actual production of it was quite good. Currently on screen is some Halo. Halo, this might come as a surprise to you, Kerry. Halo Infinite has got some pretty major bugs in it when they're trying to set up tournaments that delays the tournaments fairly often.
Oh, no.
Like, people just not connecting to lobbies. Like, there's a lot of, like... I don't know what the fuck is going on over there, but it is quite indicative of what everything is like in that game.
That's really sad to hear.
It is quite
especially
sad.
After this week where they announced like their next like 9 months of content, and it was like so disappointing.
And they're talking about how Halo is a competitive game, but like this is still not really working for them either.
Well, when your footage opened with this to start with, I was like, "Oh, Halo, of course. Well, that's interesting. That's cool." And now the context of it being one of the least stable things to play and run at the event.
And genuinely, this was one of the least popular events that was going on at DreamHack. So there was a bunch of major games.
Sad.
What's up? Walking back now.
What's up, Jeremy? He's back.
First day was weird. There wasn't really a whole lot going on.
That's broker.
There's kind of some communication issues around when people should show up and what's around. And then there's not really a whole lot to do outside of see the events, which is fine because, it's like a sporting event sort of thing. But like there's also nothing else really around. There's games and some stuff to play.
Oh,
there's all games you can play
like
at home.
sporting event food,
Sure,
nachos, chips, burgers.
But aside from that, it's kind of a
$12 each.
It's kind of a weird show. I feel like they don't quite know what they're really here for. So yeah, I don't know. I suppose I'll hang around tomorrow, see what's around. Hopefully there's more people around because it was kind of bare for a lot of today.
Tomorrow, Jeremy.
I couldn't really find anyone
Next
to
day.
like that wanted to chat, I guess, or like. Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully there's more people around that has a bit more energy, a bit more excitement. But for now, it was kind of, seems like the first time a company's been here for a convention, even though everybody that's running it seems to be the people who ran MEO from 4 years ago. So, yeah, I don't know. See what happens tomorrow, day 2. Yeah, that's sort of
day 3.
It's a reoccurring theme, I think, because it felt like this is the first time they've ever done one of these, when they definitely were not. This is what the fighting game area looked like. It was quite a small stage with a quite an intimate stage. I thought was quite good because anybody that was done with the fight just jumped back into the seats.
So for audio listeners, the initial stage was like a big screen with the two teams on the stage with like a lot of seats, but this is more like a conference room kind of setting.
Yeah.
Oh, this is Jeremy playing Daytona.
Yeah, it's me playing Daytona. The fighting game area was weird because it was sort of off to the side, and I accidentally stumbled upon it because I was looking for it, and then saw an empty doorway into the other half of Rod Laver or Margaret Court. I'm not sure which one is what. I think it was Rod Laver. The other half of Rod Laver was barely used, which is like a large arena. Because half of it was dedicated to CSGO. And the other half was this weird, like, bunch of doors with no lights. And so I just sort of, like, wandered in to see if I could, like, snoop and see what was going on. And then someone was like, hey, like, and I was like, oh, sorry, like, is this area not open? And they're like, no, it's open. The fighting games are down here. I'm like, the what? I'm like, yeah, like, the fighting games are down here. And I'm like, they're here? Okay, because people are walking past this place not knowing that there's anything in here. Like, there's no signs and there's no lights, and people think that you're probably cleaning in here or something.
Did that change?
No. Which is a shame, because I think that the fighting area was maybe my favorite because there was so many different games, and, FGC I think is quite a cool thing.
I don't know. What is that?
I believe it stands for Fighting Game Community.
Right, okay. Yeah, you said that in chat because you said that at the time in our Discord server, and you said, "Oh yeah, I finally found FGC," and they're just like,
"Yeah. FGC is Fighting Game Community."
That's a shame because fighting games are so dynamic. Like fighting games are really fun to watch at like all times.
They're so exciting
at the time we at a competitive level.
By and large what's going on because there's 2 health bars at the top and there's 2 people going at it. So you can kind of pick it up. Anyway, so
like Counter-Strike Go matches go for like 50 minutes each.
Yeah, right. This is me struggling to get some first-person Daytona machine. Was that it? I'm sure more comes up later. There was a lot of racing sim stuff inside the expo hall, which was kind of cool, but that was sort of it. There was a really, really cool 3-monitor racing sim, which I really wanted to have a go at, but the line was just sort of consistent the entire time. Rode were there showing off the Rodecaster 2.
Did you ask for a sponsorship?
No.
That was our in, Jeremy.
That was our in. I saw some competitive League of Legends. I don't really know what goes on in that game competitively. There's a lot. I
So
saw
much.
I saw some competitive CS:GO. That was kind of cool. Cool graphics when the bomb explodes, where it goes across all the monitors. There's a
Oh, right. I thought you meant in game. I'm like,
No,
Jeremy,
no.
that game's 10 years old.
one of those mallet games. This claw machine,
Great.
this claw machine absolutely fucked me because I had it. I 100% had it.
You
And
really
it-
wanted this Intel chip with tiny arms and legs? You really wanted that?
So I did want it because if you get one of the couple lucky ones in there that say i9 on the other side of it, then you win an Intel Core i9.
Oh, that is good.
It's dope. You get a free. Everyone gets one free go. I was livid, Kerry. I swore at the machine, and the guy was like, "Oh," I'm like, "Sorry." I was like, "You fucking," and then I went quiet.
I'm in public right now.
Yeah.
I have a press pass right now representing MiniMap.
I think we're gonna see the bomb explosion show up on the screen pretty soon. Yeah, look, I think I wanted two things from this that weren't quite there. First of all, I wanted more games to have either tournaments or be shown off. Because a lot of the games they had there, they weren't super newbie friendly, or at least they weren't the most exciting to watch if you didn't really know what was already going on. Whereas more general first person shooters or some more tactical games. Like years ago they had Siege, which I thought was a really fun game to watch because
why wasn't it there?
Well, I think Siege isn't the game it used to be anymore. But also all the Battle Royale esports things have sort of come and gone in a way. Like they still exist, but not nearly what they used to be. At least back in 2019 when Battle Royales were everything.
That's a good point. Like PAX 2019, I think I remember watching a PUBG match at PAX.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
At MEO they had Fortnite, and it was just an exhibition match. It was 100 content creators or something.
That's great. That's fun.
But yeah, it was. I watched it. It was fun. I didn't even like Fortnite back then. So there was less things to know without already knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Or less things to be able to learn, I guess. Which is why I think that I wish the fighting game area had a bit more to it. Halo was the easiest one to pick up, and unfortunately, it was sort of the least popular. So that was.
Oh man, it's
yeah.
so sad.
Um,
You're rocking it at Daytona though. Look at you go.
I did so well in this until I didn't. Because I'm not at all.
You're 17th out of 20, but don't let that stop you. Oh, that was a bingle.
I'm also not at all used to the force feedback in this machine. It was an intense machine.
Yeah, it seems like you're really having to yank it.
Yes, I am, and it's fucking fun though. Daytona's so good. I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit on the Daytona because it's gonna go for a bit. There was a Guitar Hero machine.
Guitar Hero.
At the risk of copyright strike, we'll just have to talk over this while it's happening the entire time.
I really wish that I'd played the Guitar Hero arcade machine at IMAX while it was still there, but I always put it off, and then now it's gone. So what'd you play, Jeremy?
This is Bulls on Parade.
Bulls on Parade, nice.
Which was really good. And then I played a little bit of Sabotage by the Beastie Boys, also really good. Let's go back just a little bit. There was a Money Machine.
I saw Intel post that on their stories or whatever. We're at Dreamhack Melbourne.
Yeah, Intel had they had quite a large presence there.
Multitasker challenge. Oh, right, like a CPU. Okay.
Yeah. This dude did
is
very
this just
well.
Money?
I don't know what it was. I think
These don't look like monies.
I think it's tickets.
It's a man in a booth with flying confetti things around him.
I think it's tickets because then they counted how many you had at the end, and then whoever had the most, I think at the end of each day, or the top 5 had at the end of each day, got a prize. Because they couldn't just be they could just be shelling out hundreds of dollars every 15 minutes.
That's fun. That's silly.
Yeah. this is also quite silly. Which is
Is this inflatable sumo wrestling?
yes, sumo fights. Yeah.
Two normal people in very large suits.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. What's this Guilty Gear Strive on the screen now?
I don't know. I have no idea. There were many fighting games.
Game X.
This might have been DNF. There was a lot of fighting games. I think this is the rest of the video.
Oh yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Are you glad you went, Jeremy?
Of course. From people who were into the games that were there, they seem to have a really good time.
Okay.
I
So the CS:GO diehards were having a good time, and the Halo diehards.
yeah, the Halo heads, as they like to be called.
What's that? Sorry, I'm getting a message in my ear right now. They don't exist. There's no Halo diehards. They're all dead. They died hard. Oh no.
Yeah, the Halo diehard. They're not diehards. They're just missing in action hards. So
missing in action hards
because they don't die. Spartans never die. Just go missing in action.
It's true. It's very serious.
Dreamhack.
Right.
I'm looking forward to
Dreamhack.
PAX. I'm really, really looking forward to PAX. I saw the big sign on the side of Jeff Shed. He's going up today. They wasted no time.
Yep.
I wonder if there was a. Of course there isn't, but I wonder if there was a clause. I wonder if there was a you need to wait until our convention is done before you can market yours.
Well, I imagine it's more that they bought the time to have the sign there until the convention was done. And they're not going to advertise. They're not going to pay to advertise the convention that's already been and gone.
Oh no! But I mean, they're at entirely different locations anyway. But it's just funny that the moment Dreamhack are done, the PAX sign goes up with the big welcome home.
Yeah. Oh, I got to think about whether I want to go to that. It's a lot of people. It's a lot of people.
Yeah. You should think soon because Saturday tickets are 90% sold out. That's if you're planning on going on Saturday. I think if you were somewhat anxious, Friday would be your best day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Friday's always the day I get the most done whenever I'm at PAX.
Mm.
Less lines, less people. So,
Less kids.
Less kids. They're all at fucking school, nerds.
Bloody whippersnappers.
I remember I was in high school when PAX was first coming around, and I remember I went there at 8:00 in the morning to pick up my pass, then went to school, and then after school I immediately went to PAX for the final couple hours, and then went home.
You went there?
I had a free period on a Friday as well, and so I got to get there at about 1.
Okay.
And then I spent the second half of the day at PAX.
That's cool.
It was
That's
fun. It was good fun.
That was like year 12 when the first one was happening. So it was like, I can't go to a convention. I got to study.
Yeah.
This is the one time in my life I have to actually study.
Yeah. Yep.
So Jeremy.
So Kerry.
I asked you at the start when we were setting up the show before we were live. Pardon me. I said to you, do you want to talk about any other games after Dreamhack? And you said, yes. Give me 15 minutes to talk about Fortnite. And I said, what? Why? You said, I've got a thing. I got a thing to show you. I got a whole thing to go through.
I do have a thing. I think
okay.
I think that thing is called a new reoccurring segment, Kerry.
Fortnite's fortnightly check-in of the...
It is. I'm copying what Waypoint first put out years ago, back in like 2017 or something, or maybe 2016, which was they played 14 days of Fortnite called Fortnite Fortnight. I'm copying that name because they haven't done it since, and I don't think they care anymore. Where every fortnight I will do a quick Fortnite check-in to tell you what's going on in the world of Fortnite. Only because...
That's quite the commitment.
Look, there are going to be some weeks it's going to be about 2.5 to 3 minutes. But there's always something happening, and since I saw Goku fighting Darth Vader one time, I went, you know what? There's a lot happening in this world that I think is maybe worth talking about it, even if it's by and large the same conversation about IP lore every single day. And
nothing gets the kids going more than IP.
I mean, you joke, and yet here it is.
Here we are.
This monolith of this monolith of dry ink.
I bet there are kids doing their middle school electives in high school, like their introduction to business management classes.
Yeah.
And there's a week on intellectual property and copyright, and I bet the savvy teachers are in there going, now when Goku's in Fortnite and they're using the Kamiyamama, then it's like this is something that's been licensed to Epic Games and the Fortnite.
Yep. So welcome to the inaugural episode of the Fortnite Fortnight.
I wish we had a theme song.
I wish we had a graphic. I really want like a giant, insanely high quality graphic that's much high quality than anything else that's on screen right now.
It's the most highly produced bit of anything we've ever made for the site ever.
Yeah, like Epic.
For this one impromptu bit for this one game that's been around for years.
Epic have got so much money that they that they make it for us. That they make the graphic for us.
That'd be so funny.
So what's been happening?
We get this segment of the podcast sponsored by Epic.
Yeah. Yep. I just thought of this. Maybe this is all a ruse that I've planned so that we can get Epic creator codes and start making a little bit of moolah. This is not the case. This is not the case at all.
It's funny to think about, though.
I've been playing regular games of Fortnite and
no build. Sure.
No, it's definitely no build. I played one game of build and it scared the shit out of me. You might not have been on call, so I downloaded.
I think I was there when you were doing the build game.
You were there, yeah, because I was playing and then I shot like some kid from like 100 million yards away. And I saw just a cathedral like appear in front of me, and I went, "Oh fuck! I'm in the wrong game mode."
Because I was trying to. You were like, "Oh, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?" And I was being like, "Look, you like, I don't know the buttons." I'm like, "The buttons are on your screen. They're in the bottom right corner. Just look at them. Just build a wall."
I couldn't. So I've been playing no build, and I've been playing every now and again, but fairly regularly every now and again. Playing it on my Xbox, playing it on the PC. Had it on my phone, deleted it on my phone because it was too big. But like it's good to have the option there. I think is maybe the most amazing thing is I can play this game wherever, and it all syncs, which is
that is cool. That kind of thing is amazing. I was talking to friends recently because Destiny had their every major expansion free for a week thing, which meant basically it had cross-buy for the first time. It meant I could play the start of The Witch Queen on PC and then go to my couch and play it there without having to buy it again.
Yeah, the only other time it sort of had that was when all the Destiny expansions at that time were all on Game Pass.
Yeah.
And there was if you had it on PC, it was already available on Game Pass, and so you could have this kind of roundabout cross-buy.
Yeah. When it's that easy, it's so fun. It's so good to just be like,
so
I'm going to play this thing I was playing there, here.
Yeah, yes. It was like, what if I just played the next mission, like, horizontal, on the couch?
You know what I could really go for right now? Some horizontal Fortnite.
Some horizontal Fortnite. Horizontal Fortnite always ends up with me being vertical, going, like, I can't see the screen from this far away. I've been playing it. I got contrary to what you think, I got my first win about less than a week ago.
Yeah, I definitely think we won a game like 4 years ago, but that's fine. You got your first recent win.
Yeah, I got my first win that I can remember. And I deserved it. I outplayed. I shot Vegeta, and I won.
Yeah.
And up
Take
until
that.
Take that,
God of the
Vegeta.
Saiyans. Yeah. Or Prince of the... Who cares?
I think it's Prince of the Saiyans.
Yeah.
And so I was like, cool. I have now played enough of this that I saw that.
Did your light flicker? I think your light flickered.
And then yours did.
But mine flickered too. We don't live that far away from each other.
Yeah.
I can't tell whether I saw my light flicker and I thought it was yours, or whether... Because my literal light flickered here. All right, okay, sorry. Complete derailment. That blew my mind.
I've just clipped it so I can go back during the break.
Yeah, I really want to see if both of our houses flickered.
Yeah. So I got my first win and I'm like, okay, sick. I'm sick of being a default character. I want to have a not the default soldier person, which I think is ugly.
Yeah.
So I spent a little bit of money and I bought the battle pass.
How much?
I bought the battle pass. I didn't buy any characters.
Okay.
Because the battle
How
pass...
far through the battle pass were you by the time that you bought it?
About level 35.
Great time to buy a battle pass.
Yeah, it was like, okay, I've done enough of this. I haven't even been really focusing on the quests because I haven't had the battle pass. But you know what? I think that's enough because I think at that point I got half of my currency back immediately by just redeeming through the battle pass.
Yep.
And I got a new character, got a glider, got a whole kit out.
Yeah.
With
more to come.
Yes. The battle pass is called Vibin, which I think is a funny name, and it's all vibes. It's all like beach pastel colors, and like it's about like chill kind of theme, music and all that stuff, sunglasses. And so I think the main character, this like sunglass wearing chick with like a cool outfit, I think she looks really dope. And so I was like, you know what? Happy to have that one. And if I get to level 100, I get Darth Vader, which I think is pretty cool.
Yep. You get Indiana Jones somewhere along the way later in this season, I think.
It's an adjacent quest line, Indiana Jones. So I'm almost there. I'm one quest away from getting Indy, which will be fun as well. But yeah, then Goku and Vegeta left, but the Dragon Balls and the Nimbus clouds are still in there.
Yep.
Which are really fun. The Nimbus just like throws you really, really high and just really far, which is great. And just hearing like the Kamehameha from a million miles away is always going to be terrifying because it's like kind of haunting. And yeah, now they've got they've brought back a lot of their old Pride stuff. Which is fun, and it's all free, which is great. You don't even need the battle pass. It's just like, hey, like, you know, bunch of free Pride download stuff for your character, including an emote, which is just like a stand up and then drop flat on the ground, which is a TikTok thing. I guess. Anyway, it's
kids these days.
Kids these days. I don't get a lot of the stuff that happens in Fortnite. A lot of music that I've never heard before in my life, and my back really hurts.
Yep.
But it's a weird and it's an odd time. And check in 2 weeks with the next Fortnite.
Next Fortnite. We'll see.
I'm
see
gonna
where
commit.
you're at.
I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna put a reminder in my calendar every 2 weeks to do the Fortnite, and there will always be something to talk about.
I'll put it at the bottom of the spreadsheet before the break. Just Fortnite? Question mark?
Yeah. That's a good place for it, I think.
Hit me up if you wanna squad up.
Yeah. I'll play. I'll play. The what I believe is coming next is Lord of the Rings inspired things.
I could get down with that, although that's a bit weird because there's guns and shit.
Superman has held a gun in this game. There is nothing weird anymore.
It all continues to to be weird for me.
It all does continue to be weird. It will never not continue to be weird. But there was a castle. There was a sand castle built somewhere on a beach, which looks exactly like Helm's Deep from the Lord of the Rings. Which is usually how they tease upcoming things. They'll do a reference here.
Sandcastles.
Or like, you know, a tiny one location reference. And then it usually amounts into an actual crossover.
That stands to reason. I imagine there might be Game of Thrones stuff in there at the same time. It's so fascinating that we've got like House of the Dragon
IP.
and and Rings of Power
It is
happening
weird.
at the same time. These prequels that for series that haven't been around for ages,
Yeah.
and they're happening at the same time.
Yes, it is weird. I mean, Game of Thrones wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't. It was much less time ago, but still, like because of how Game of Thrones ended, like it kind of feels like it's been a while. So everyone's like, "Oh, a new one. Maybe we won't hate this. Maybe."
Speaking of fucking weird IP and Lord of the Rings, did you know that because of Rings of Power, I think having 8 episodes made,
Yeah.
Embracer don't own it.
Oh, so when Embracer Group bought everything and all of the Lord of the Rings IP,
Yes. There's a weird...
you're saying because there was so much of Rings of Power already in production and created and set that they don't get the rights to it.
As from my understanding, which is not very much, granted, this is coming secondhand information via Twitter, but my understanding is that inside of this agreement to acquire the Lord of the Rings from the Tolkien estate, there's a tiny bit in the contract which mentions any TV show that is over 8 episodes in completion of production will not be a part of this acquisition.
Whoa.
Which means that there's a loophole in there specifically for Rings of Power.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's quite specific. And if they just happen to fall within that, then that's actually just for them.
It is definitely not they just happen to, because there has never been a Lord of the Rings TV show before this.
No, that's so fascinating. Well, lovely to hear about your week as always, Jeremy. We normally hear about my week playing games, but I've been playing Destiny 2, which we don't really need to hear about, and not even that much Apex. I did play the end of Ocarina of Time, Jeremy, and it was strange. I didn't even know I was going to go on this rant, but I was thinking about it.
Yeah, go for it.
It was strange beating the game because I've been watching so many speedruns of it. I've seen the end of this game probably more than 100 times, and I've played it myself probably like twice. This is actually a legitimate, like, incredible set piece moment in gaming that I never kind of grasped. Like in 1998, I'm looking at the quality of the cutscenes and like the scope of the destruction. Like you're inside this tower and then it starts crumbling down around you. And like, it's actually really, really, really impressive.
Yes.
What they pulled off in 1998. I'm playing this. I'm like, I know what happens, but this is incredible.
And it would have been the first time the Zelda team had ever worked on 3D.
Yeah, 100%.
And they went for that.
It was huge. It was massive. Like what was Super Mario 64's set piece moment? You fight Bowser a 3rd time, throw him by the tail for the like 9th time, except this time when he jumps up from the abyss and lands on the stage falls away and makes the shape of a star. Like that was the big moment in Mario 64.
No, the big moment in Mario 64 is the moment you find out you can fly. That was pretty special.
Yeah, that's a good like gameplay moment, but it's not like a set piece.
No, there are no set pieces in Mario 64. There is like, it's throwing the King Thwomp. No, stomping on King Thwomp.
Stomping on King Thwomp, throwing King Bob-omb. Yeah. So yeah, I just thought I'd mention that because I was thinking to myself, and I was saying to Sam, I was like, I think I was really young when we finished it the first time, and then the second time I finished it would have been on my 3DS. I was probably on the train. I don't think I was really absorbing how good or impressive it was on the train.
I miss that. I don't think I have the ability to play a 3DS or a DS game like properly anymore. I don't know if I have.
What does that even mean?
Like be fully absorbed in it.
Because
it's on a little screen, and for me now, because I own a phone, little screen means I can drop it and pick it up as much as I want, and the Switch has enabled that or adapted to that in a really great way.
Yeah.
But when I finish a Switch game, I think I always finish it docked.
Yeah.
I very rarely finish a Switch game handheld, or if I do, I'm in bed and sideways.
Right. So things that are more grabbing of your attention are on the telly, and it's sort of a more direct, you put it there to pay more attention to it.
Whereas I remember being a kid and just sitting on the couch with my DS and finishing Pokemon and being like, oh my God, like, losing my mind, right?
Yeah.
But it was like, yeah. I miss those days.
I know what you mean. But I think I've just felt that way because I've been less inclined towards handheld gaming for a while now, and so I feel similarly.
The last time
sitting
for
on
me,
the couch.
The last time for me probably was the Vita when I finished like Tearaway.
Right, like 10 years ago.
Yeah, like fucking ages ago.
Yeah, I don't remember the last time I really got into. There were times I was playing games on the 3DS and enjoying it, but like when I really got into it, that I was playing it at home. It was a long time ago. Yeah.
I
so
want
that was a little chicken.
Just to finish on that. I really hope, and I think it would be able to, considering the conversation around it, but I really hope eventually when I get a Steam Deck, whenever that'll be, I hope that'll be able to bring me back.
Really?
Only because I feel like people who are in the similar situation, who have got a Steam Deck, had that. They were like,
man, the amount of people are talking, like people in the industry are talking about how much the Steam Deck is changing their gaming habits. Like it sounds like propaganda after a point. Like it's like, surely not.
Yeah.
Surely it's not changing the way you interact and play things that much, but it is for so many of them. So it's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Valve, if you're listening, hook us up.
Hook us up. So yeah, there's not much else that I've been playing this week except for The Last of Us Part 1. Came out on Friday.
Wait,
we're going to talk about it. Okay. Yeah, no, we're good. It's foreshadowing, Jeremy.
Sorry.
we're going to talk about it. It's our topic of the show this week, which means we're going to head out of the What We've Been Playing segment. We're going to go to a break, and when we come back, it's all about The Last of Us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the MiniMapCast. We're so professional here. I asked Jeremy to give me a countdown back into the break so I could count the timer, and he just said no, and he started the podcast back up.
You didn't have to do it. You could have just said no, do that again.
We're live, Jeremy.
That was funny.
Oh, that was funny. You baited and switched me.
Yeah.
Oh boy! Welcome back from the break, everybody. I've just had some food, some energy food. Keep me powered, energized throughout this next segment. This next segment is going to be our discussion about The Last of Us Part 1, the remade from the ground up, quote unquote.
Rebuilt is what it says.
Rebuilt, remastered 2022 release of the first Last of Us game. This is a Naughty Dog game. It originally came out on the PS3 in 2013, in June of 2013, in the last 6 months of the PlayStation 3, before the PS4 came out. It then came out 6 months after the PS4 came out on the PS4 with The Last of Us Remastered, which had the downloadable content episode, had the multiplayer, all in one package, all in one disc. Made sense to me because like The Last of Us was really banging up against the edge of what the PS3 was capable of. And not that many people played it because they weren't thinking about their PS3 that much at that point in time.
I don't know if I'd go that. Plenty of people played it. Not to say that
not that many people played it, but a lot of people played it for the first time on PlayStation 4.
Sure.
Because the Xbox did so badly at the start of that generation, and so many people went to PlayStation for the first time, or for the first time in a while, with the PS4. A lot of people who didn't have the opportunity got to play it on PS4.
I think more people might have played it, at least in the first couple of years. I think more people played it on the PS3 for the first time. Because you got to remember, back then the PS3 was outselling the 360 by the end.
Sure, but it came out the same month that they showed off what the PS4 looked like. You know what I mean? I didn't even know what The Last of Us was, but I was following the PS4 release.
Yeah, I know. It was doing very well on the PS3.
Okay.
It was like it was a very, very pop. It was the title for the PS3. I think is maybe the fairest thing to say.
Yeah, for sure. So it's a lot of people's favorite game of all time. It's an excellent narrative, harrowing, violent adventure game from Naughty Dog. Very different to Uncharted, but also using a lot of the lessons they learned from Uncharted 1, 2, and 3. This game's real cool, and I liked it when it came out originally. We've spoken about it a lot on this show. I was having the thought to myself that it's good that June's not here today, because they would hate this segment. Even although they own that game 3 times, they just so very much dislike this game. They came out with a new one for the PS5.
Let's not go that far. They came out with it again.
Yeah, they came out with a new version of this same game, of The Last of Us 1, on PlayStation 5 on Friday. We've spoken about it on the show this last few weeks, talking about the price point. We're gonna render our thoughts on that today. But Jeremy,
in real time,
in real time, Jeremy, I want your 1 sentence take on your 1 sentence overall take of the game after this weekend with it. Go.
It's all right.
Unless you want a bit. It's all right. Okay.
That's all right. That's kind of it.
That's. I mean, that's 1 sentence. You stuck to the criteria.
Yeah.
If I had to give it 1 sentence, I'm going to try and think of this quickly and pithily. It's not a word.
Pithily sounds like my favorite character in the new Lord of the Rings show.
Pithily. I think this is the best way to play this game. And it would be an absolutely stunning way to play this game for the first time. But it is not essential.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. I think that, yes, this is the best way to play this game for the first time. I also think that the best way I will ever play this game was when I played it for the first time on PS4.
Okay. Did you play it on PS3?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Finish.
Yep.
Okay.
Got the collector's edition, which is like a knapsack or whatever the hell it was. The Velcro one, Joel's face on it. It's like a Velcro,
that
like
prop from the game.
It's like you know the thing that he folds out when he's doing upgrades to his guns. It's that thing. It's like a gun holder.
It's like a toolkit.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's neat.
When you said a little sack, I thought it was like, you know, those little rucksacks people tie a sack to the end of a stick and tie it on their shoulder. I thought it was just a little cloth with his face on it.
gonna go live on the rail line and sing jaunty tunes.
Joel's got a handkerchief with his own face on it in the game.
Yeah. I think if you played this within the first 18 months of the game coming out, then you have played the best version at the best time, because I feel that while this game does look really good in a lot of ways, there's some changes that I'm not a huge fan of, but for the most part they're fine. I think that I was realizing time and time again that this is a PS3 arse game. It's an early PS4 game, and it feels like it, and it acts like
definitely.
it, and it is paced like it, and it is written like it, and it is acted like it.
So it's like because it's, you know, it's all redone, right? Except the audio work, the performance work, and therefore the writing and all of the beats of every cutscene and every interaction with every character. All of those things have to stay the same. Like the amount of time it takes for players to say something to each other, which then gives you only X amount of time to make an animation for a character sitting in a room or whatever.
Yeah.
Like all of that stuff is set.
Yes.
Which then means that now that the graphics have been so overhauled, the most outdated part of this game is now the design.
Yeah, and it is ingrained in the DNA of this game. You will not be able to take it out.
Because they didn't remix it. This isn't like Final Fantasy VII Remake or Resident Evil 2 where it's informed by but modernized. This is it's really the same game. It's more like the Shadow of the Colossus remake, where even less like that, because that had modernized controls.
Yeah, it is more
closest to that, maybe, but
it's honestly, I think it's actually closest to like the Assassin's Creed remasters, which is they redid a lot of the work inside of those games and then brought it up.
Yeah, I think the graphical work that they did for this game was way more intense, though, because the thing with the remaster is that they're rarely adding new assets. They're more like taking an existing asset and
it's the Halo,
increasing its fidelity.
It's the Halo remake, then I think, just without the old option.
Which
is like it runs on the old engine, and yet it is brand new coat of paint.
Same enemies, same damage values. Yep. That makes sense. Same drops.
Yeah. I think I like playing the game because I like playing the game, but I don't think I like this.
Because the game's good.
But I think I don't like this as a product. I think I don't like this as a thing that they have made. I think because there is an awkward amount of work that went into making this, which I think has left me wanting more or less. Weirdly
like you wish they had changed it more, or that they'd only remastered it.
Yeah. And look, what they have done is really good. I was going through the Digital Foundry video today, going through a lot of the nitty-gritties of the differences between the two, and can
I just say as well, anyone who's interested in that in the game and like is worried about the price or just wants to see it, the Digital Foundry tech review, that's like the 55-minute video, it's excellent. I highly recommend you watch it.
As always, Digital Foundry are doing maybe the best job that anyone,
when it comes to this kind of thing.
When it comes to this kind of thing, it's just like there's a reason they're the ones that always do it. I don't know of any other company that does it like that.
IGN's picked it up now. They've got someone who does that with big releases, but yeah.
But are they even pixel counting? Because like
they are. They're doing resolution and frame rate graphs. It's the most similar thing I've seen. But Digital Foundry still, I think, doing it the best.
Yeah. There's a lot of really great things that have done, like the entire new like the lighting engine. I think for the most part is really quite good. The ability to do real-time cutscenes, I think, helps the game because it removes loading, and it also is like a lot more seamless across transitions between cutscenes and gameplay. I think those are the two biggest draw points for me. Even though I think that in some instances the real-time cutscenes look worse from a direction point of view because they are now real-time, they are less authored. Because I think in a lot of instances the fidelity is cranked all the way up. It looks fucking phenomenal now. Aside from things have changed, like time of day has changed, the overall
or like
color.
The windows are grittier and it's harder to see people in a room. Or...
It's like that stuff, but also like the color palette has changed in scenes quite dramatically in some instances, and the tone of some scenes has changed with the ambiance of the light coming through in a different way, and it's shifts in that direction, which I don't quite understand. Because I think I don't think they needed to change that direction. And I think in some instances it's not as good.
I think that's fair. Like when I was watching that Digital Foundry video, something I was struck by with their side-by-side comparisons. And I don't think side-by-sides are necessarily the best comparison to make. It's interesting and it's fascinating and I want to see it, but I don't know if it's actually that helpful.
It's not always this one is better than this.
Totally, because you're not sitting there playing it picture in picture. It's not going to be like that. You're just playing one or the other. So, but point being, when I was seeing the side by sides, talking about the sort of tonal difference they've made and the color palettes. This remake is dramatically more like seeming washed out.
It is,
or
yeah.
like in most scenes, the colors are way less vibrant, and it makes you realize that despite how grim everything is in the original The Last of Us or Last of Us Remastered, it's actually quite a saturated game visually. The colors of like Ellie's shirt and Joel's like Ellie's red shirt and Joel's green shirt and the blue of the cobblestone of the streets or the cracked concrete or whatever, it's actually really quite bright, and the green of all of the foliage everywhere. And I think that is I prefer that. I think, especially when
you prefer the washed out, or you prefer the more saturation?
The more saturated, older style.
Yeah. So do I.
And it goes alongside, they've redone the character models, and I think I prefer the way the character models look in the new version, in part 1, where they are more realistic at this point, and I think that suits the tone of the thing generally for this to be quite realistic. Whereas before, Ellie is quite stylized, and sort of Joel and Tess, you can't really tell their age that accurately when you think about it. I think that is portrayed quite well now. But when you bring across this sort of color palette and like almost like tone mapping that like the part 2 had, where you've got like scenes that are only gray and like navy blue and deeper gray and like water blue and like faded green, and like that's all of the color in the entire scene. Like,
I was gonna jump in with a joke when you were talking about Ellie's red shirt and Joel's green shirt, and I was gonna say as opposed to now Joel's grey shirt and Ellie's grey shirt.
Yeah, totally. Going closer to that style that they had in The Last of Us Part 2, I don't enjoy as much.
I don't either, and I think that this was one of my I had two concerns. One has, as far as I can tell, not happened, which is great. I'm glad they haven't changed the game. I'm glad they haven't. What was I saying? I was saying it was going to be called the rehabilitation of Joel Miller cut.
Yeah, the rehabilitation. In my head, I thought it was the emancipation, but I think you're right. I think it's rehabilitation of Joel Miller.
Yeah. Because I didn't trust them to not make changes to the story, and which they haven't, which is good. I'm glad about that. But
there's one. Well, I did see something somewhere that maybe there's one thing different.
Like there are very minor things which I can talk to that they have changed, which does sort of work towards that theory that I had. Like, they've changed his face and they've changed his posture. He's not nearly as menacing before. He's a little bit shorter now. Like just very slightly, but his shoulders are dropped. His eyes are less menacing. They're a bit like more droopy as he's a bit older. There are things that have made him look less imposing as a character. Which I don't quite like, but also they are minor enough that if you're not playing them side by side, like you're not going to notice. But I noticed. and I think that's the thing.
And you were looking for it, to be fair. I know you were looking for it.
That stuff actually wasn't quite looking for yet. That was the beginning of me not trusting. Okay. Was I noticed that and I went, why did they do that? Because it was a decision that was made and then decided and
carried through.
And so there was a reason behind it, whether or not it's a rehabilitation of him or not. Go on.
So something that Digital Foundry brought up that I thought was interesting to this point, and it made me think of your perception of Joel and noticing the differences between the models. Oh wait, no, it wasn't just Digital Foundry. It was also IGN's review by Luke in the Australian office. A really good review. Something he brought up was that with the character models being overhauled, the characters look closer to their age, which is good because specifically he mentions Tess and how Tess looks more something like in her 40s, which means that you're not sitting there wondering whether he's already developed like a sort of pseudo with her potentially being younger than Sarah would have been. she looks really young in the original, I guess, is what was pointed out to be through that review.
Like she's in her like early 30s. Yeah.
Yeah, or maybe even like late 20s.
I mean, I wouldn't have said that, but sure.
Joel looks young in the original. He looks like he's in his mid-30s, even although he's got a daughter who has passed away and then it's been 20 years. Like, Joel is realistically probably in his 40s, mid-40s, potentially late 40s.
Yeah.
And so I actually really like that they made the conscious steps to make Tess look more her age, make Joel look more his age when he's younger in the flashbacks, and make him look more his age 20 years later in the setting of the main game. I think that's a really good choice. But you're right, it does change things. It's sort of it's again that push towards like the characters look more real, quote unquote, than they did before and less stylized. That I could definitely see going either way, and I wouldn't hold it against anyone to prefer one way or the other.
And I think this goes back to, I think, part of what I originally thought this game was going to be, and this one I think I am comfortable saying that I believe I'm right, which is that this is a prequel to the first game more than it is a remake of the original game.
Sorry, a prequel to the second game, do you mean?
Sorry, yes. This one is the prequel to the sequel they made as opposed to a remake of the first. It's both, but it is to bring it in line with part 2 as opposed to... It is less important to them to bring it in to remake the first one as it is to make sure part 1 and part 2 are together, which is hilarious considering that 2 isn't on PS5 yet, natively.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking, playing this, I'm like, man... I've been watching a bit of coverage, and someone was saying, they're likely to bundle part 1 and part 2 when Factions comes out, so you can buy them all together. There'll be a neat box or something.
And it'll cost $478.
I'm sitting there, I'm like, crap, they will, and I'll want it. And I'm fucking chump for wanting it, because, like, I bought this one too, and I didn't need it.
There'll be an upgrade for 2. And it'll cost you $60, and you got to hand deliver it directly to Jim Ryan.
Yeah, I don't like how much they're squeezing this golden goose. They're just squeezing it. Pump out as many of those golden eggs for us as you can, The Last of Us.
Especially because there's no factions in this, right? There's no multiplayer, and it's like
charging the most for this game than has ever been charged when there is the least amount of content in it is a bit weird.
It's not great. At least,
especially when. Oh, sorry, no, you finish your thought.
I was just going to say,
we'll get to my bit. It's written down.
It's just especially because it's so much money, and people like the factions enough that they've been clamoring for this new online multiplayer. And I'm not saying that they should have brought it across, because that's a lot of fucking work, and they've only just taken down. They've just taken down the factions multiplayer, or they're taking it down in a couple months or something.
Just the PS3 one though, right? Not PS4.
I'm not sure. I don't care enough about factions to look. However, I think that I'm not saying they should have brought it across. What I'm saying is the price should be reflective of it not being there.
Agreed. Buddy's in chat saying I'm legit playing factions right now, which is very funny. Buddy, is that because you're playing it because the remakes come out and you're wanting to get back into the world and you enjoyed factions? Yeah, no, you're right. The price should be reflective of that. I think it's tricky. I want to recommend, and I'm going to read a part of this article in further ahead. I don't think we're there to the point where I want to read this, but on fanbyte.com, they've got a bit of Last of Us content. But by Kenneth Shepard, there's an article called "The Last of Us Part 1's problem isn't price, it's hubris." And then the byline for it is like, "There's a line even for one of the greatest games of all time." And so I'm gonna read some of that later, but I do recommend people, if they are interested in this topic, go and read that article. It's really fascinating because it talks about, I can't say to you, like this person says, I can't say to you whether it's worth the price of admission because, that amount of money means different things to different people. Maybe you're a diehard Last of Us fan. Maybe you've never played it before. Maybe you have played it before and you love the game. Maybe you're strapped for cash. I can't tell you how much that's going to mean for you if you spend that money, especially in the age of subscription services where we can get so much for seemingly so little. Using the price as a metric of how much you're going to enjoy something means totally nothing these days, which I thought was a really valid point. And something that someone on GameSpot said was, if you think this is too much money, don't buy it. and buy it later when it's cheaper, and you'll still have a great time. This isn't a game that like the discourse is going to be around for. Like the game has happened.
The discourse around this game is about, is it worth the money for the most part? Which I think is...
Yeah, because it's the only thing that's new.
Which I think
because
is also...
even a lot of the improvements they've added are excellent things that have come forward from part 2, like accessibility features and adaptive difficulty that you can change yourself. Like, that's not brand new.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you know, and I have definitely been a part of this problem, but I think in a way the price discord is a little bit reductive to like I always found the more interesting conversation, which I think we can actually have this now in a way, now that it's out, we can see it, is like is the thing I asked you a little while ago, and I think you didn't quite have an answer yet, so I'm going to ask you again now. Should they have changed more?
Yeah.
Or rather, like, we knew what we were going to get when we were going to get this game, especially when they're talking about like the performance are going to be it's the same performances, but we've tuned them and remade them and it's all this stuff, right? And I asked you, like, should they have changed this game more? Should they have cut content to make it a better game? You know, like
or like changed puzzles or
yeah, like, you know, because we were talking about like, hey, like I wonder if, because we hadn't seen gameplay when I asked you this question, I was like, oh, like I wonder if they've changed locations of the safes, for example. And like they haven't, but like, you know, like should they have? I did the bloater fight last night, like the first one.
Me too.
And I think that fight's pretty cool. I think that's a really fun and engaging fight. I thought the leading up to it was fucking sucked. I thought going through
the parking lot to the school.
I thought that area wasn't fun for me at all.
Especially because it's got a scripted moment of forced stealth break.
Yeah.
So you can stealth through that whole area, and then once you trip an invisible wire, the stealth break sound happens, and then like 6 of them come out of nowhere, like they're on your tail. It's like, what?
Yeah. Like, and there was another part as well, which I don't quite remember. That was leading up to there was a section with Tess and Ellie when you're running through the range of the pipes, and there's a bunch of like the soldiers with guns and they're looking for you and stuff,
and they're standing above you with the flashlights.
Yeah, there was an area in there that was just like one of the smaller encounters, and I just like I got fucked over and over again, and I was sitting there going like, what the fuck do you want me to do about this? And granted, I'm playing on grounded on the hardest difficulty, and I was on low health, and so one bullet and I was dead.
Yeah.
But
they see better and break out of stealth easier in that mode too.
What fucked me was that I was in this area and I did it 5 times, and the 6th time I got it and I did the exact same thing as the first 5 times, and I'm like, well, like the fuck.
So that's funny, right? That takes me to a point. So just to answer Buddy's the question I asked Buddy, he plays factions often, which is cool. I do want to go back and play more factions. Maybe we should do that. Do you want to do a factions night later this week?
No.
When okay, that's fine. Did you ever get into factions?
Yeah, I did. Like I went for the trophy. So that was very mean, but it was very funny. I went for the trophy in factions, and I was close to getting it, and then I ruined it like a couple games before I got it, and I didn't. I just stopped playing.
Oh, like you needed like X population of one side for the fair enough.
Like I quite enjoyed the meta game, and I thought the actual gameplay part of it was fun, but I feel the same way largely about that as I did the Uncharted multiplayer, which was that's fun.
Right. Okay.
I like the gameplay of those.
About.
Yeah, I like the gameplay of those games, so I'll play more, but like.
Yeah, but if you want to play some, I'll let you know. I'm thinking about it. Well, where were we going with that before I jumped? We were discussing
changes and if they should have been made, or if they should have been more, or if they should have been less.
Yeah, and so you were saying that the 6th time you got through, you finally made it, and you were like, oh, what the hell? I've got a point written down here under my design and updates section. I'll just read out what I wrote down. This was yesterday, I think. And I said, I think something that I think goes unappreciated with this game is how dynamic it is. Enemies have patrols and you can distract. So that's stuff that's sort of like set in stone. But it never plays out the same way twice, usually. Scenes I just played back to back, or that I remember originally having trouble with, I can adapt or breeze through or decide to do something different. And I really love that about the game. You know, games where you can make choices, and you can see this especially with narrative choices, it's very easy for someone to make the same decisions.
Yep.
You know, every time I play Mass Effect, I'm always playing Paragon, which it basically means like, even though there's multiple choices and it could play out differently, I'm playing the same game every time. Because that's just what I prefer. And like, I don't want to play an asshole character who I don't like for the sake of seeing something different. That does nothing for me. I prefer
Kerry,
to just play Mass Effect again.
You got to do that for fun sometimes.
It just doesn't do it that much.
We got to do another Red Dead session.
Oh no, you're gonna break my faith in the human psyche if we do that. But I loved in this game what I did at the start of my play session yesterday was I started up The Last of Us Part 1, the PS5 version. So there's Part 1 and Remastered, which is the new and the old. So I started Part 1, and I was up to a section with Marlene, the only combat encounter with Marlene after defeating Robert at the start of the game.
Yep.
And I started it up and I was like, no, hang on, this is a new chapter. Like, this is a new, like, sub-chapter inside the chapter. So I can go to the original remastered game, the PS4 version, which I have installed, start it at that chapter, play it, and then play it again on Part 1 on the new version and see how I feel about it. So I did that. I did that whole 10-minute section from where you meet Marlene to where you meet Ellie. And up until where Joel goes to sleep and it's nighttime. So 15 minutes, then 15 minutes. And doing those things together, like the same combat experience that I was doing played out differently each time. The way you grapple the different soldiers along that bridge. And I love that. I love that I can be surprised by the enemies, even if I've done the encounter a bunch of times and I remember how it plays from the last time I played. I can be surprised by one and I have to adapt. And I can pull it off, and I've got less of the gun resources than I had the last time I did this, or I used an extra Molotov, or I managed to clinch it and only used my fists and like a bullet, and so I feel, even although I was on the back foot, I adapted, and I think how dynamic it is, I think is really actually quite great.
And it also plays into the themes, right? It's all about, you know, like how long you're going to go before your luck runs out sort of thing, you know, like consistently throughout the entire game. People's luck is running out. Is running out.
Ran out.
Yeah.
People's lucks ran out.
That tickled me.
Words are fun, right?
Yeah, right. And I think that works in the game's favor because a lot of like it makes the AI, and this was like a really strong point of Last of Us 2, was that how much you were having to try and outsmart the AI all the time, right? It was all about like, especially when you're fighting that other clan that only uses whistles and all that stuff, right? Like, and those silent signals, like that was really cool. There's a lot of fun dynamic gameplay inside The Last of Us and 2, which, you know, really it elevates the experience. You feel like you're really fighting for your life a lot of the time. I think what my issue is with that section that I was dying over and over and over again wasn't that I was even specifically dying or like being shot by the enemy. I think it was that the encounter that I was in, it was an old design encounter. Like it was a PS3 era level design in a
hide from the spotlights.
Yeah, like and in PS3 era gameplay. You know, there are many times I am playing The Last of Us Part 1 going, like I just wish that there was that little bit more fluidity that Ellie's got in Last of Us Part 2, whether it be like the different contextual hiding behind cover movement that she does,
the dodge button,
the hide in the grass being a thing. There are so many ways that I think that this game could have been brought into 2022. And don't get me wrong, that's a lot more work than what they've done here. Like that is them making another game again with an established idea, right? I understand that that's not what this is, But I think them releasing the game as they are like now, in the context that they are right now, less so, but still in conversation for the price point they're selling it for, you need to compare it to other games that are selling at that price point in this current age on the platform that it's on, and frankly, with the naming conventions that they're using, which is not a remastered, not a director's cut, not a port, but just part one, it needs to be critiqued in a way that is fair to itself in the context of gaming now. And there are a lot of ways where it's out of date, and in some instances, it doesn't hold up. Sometimes the AI, I understand they've done a lot of work for the enemy AI. The friendly AI, still very stupid. Will still run in front of enemies. And, I'm glad the enemies don't trigger it being seen, because that would be unfair to the player.
And that was the case 9 years ago. It's like, it's better that they don't set anything off and they look silly than the opposite.
100%. However, AI is still
still look silly.
It's still a really dumb AI. It will still go too far ahead or too far back and try and catch up. I've experienced some PS3 ass glitches, like some really funny ones. Like I had one where I was getting ripped, I was getting bit in the back of the neck by a clicker, which is a death animation, and then the screen flashed for a second, and all of the enemies disappeared, and then Joel's spine collapsed in on himself, and he just like fell to the ground limp.
Whoa!
And it was like, I recorded it. I'll try and show you later.
Might
it
be on your phone.
Yeah. It was.
And then you can send it to Discord and whatever.
It was truly horrifying.
Yep.
There's a lot of things like that. As well as just the overall design of the game, like the level design, the way the story beats are paced. Some weird cuts, like and cuts that are not new, but maybe should have been adjusted. Like when they're in the truck after Billstown and Ellie's going through Bill's porno mag that she stole.
Yeah.
And she makes the joke about the pages being all stuck together. And there's just a cut to a close-up of Joel's face, and he's got this goofy, look, like this Looney Tunes ass look on his face, which is the beat around, I don't want to tell Ellie about this, and she goes, I'm just fucking with you, and throws it out. But there's just this, that's like
I thought that was fine.
I think it's fine, but it's a, I don't think, look, this would never be in The Last of Us 2. Sure. Partly because Last of Us 2 doesn't have any jokes in it, but there's no, but it was such a slapstick almost comedy beat, which they don't, even Naughty Dog, even Uncharted 4, Lost Legacy, they don't even make jokes like that in those games. This was a Jack and Daxter joke.
Right.
Which is just like, there's just little things, and they're just, because the rest of the game looks so modern, this looks so not.
There's definitely stuff.
Weird.
I've got stuff in here about because it used to be that every time you hit a cutscene, it dipped to black for a second, a bit longer on PS3 or base PS4.
Yeah.
And then the cutscene would start. When the cutscene ends, it would dip to black, and then you'd be cut straight back into gameplay. And that was them loading a video file and also unloading the previous level and loading the next level.
A technical feat.
Yeah, and so, it was amazing when Uncharted 4 got rid of those black screens. And this game has gotten rid of those black screens in this game. But it feels... I almost miss... Because these cutscenes were designed to be cut in and out of. And I almost miss them. I almost miss them being shown that way. Just because that's how they were designed. Now, I do think it's... Overall, it is better. To have it be more seamless. But, just knowing that, it's just a bit like, ugh. And there's this scene when you're going towards the Capitol building with Tess and Ellie, and you've just gone through the museum, the sun's starting to rise, and Joel's thinking about whatever, he's having a sentimental moment to himself.
As he does.
And he goes down the ladder, and you're left lingering on this view of the Capitol building in the sunrise. And then hard cuts immediately, very quickly to an hour later when they're much, much, much closer to the Capitol. And the sun is up. It's daytime now. The Capitol building's right there. And in the original game, that was a dip to black. That went to black, and then that next moment was gameplay.
Yeah.
And in this rendition of this game, it's not. There's no dip to black. It's just sunrise. Like dawn is happening. It's daytime. It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
And I was worried it was going to be like that throughout the rest of the game. There are some hard cuts to black before the next thing plays, which I'm glad of. So I'm guessing that's just one they chose to not put in, which an artistic choice, whatever.
Yeah. I've got. Sorry, really quick. I've got the death here.
You got it on your phone. Yep.
Yeah. I'm just gonna hold it up and just wait
See
for
if
my
you can
camera to
focus
focus.
it on camera.
There we go.
This is the one where Jeremy said he folded in on himself before. Oh, you missed it. Further in. There you go. So yeah, he's in the school. Oh, wow.
Yeah, right.
The enemies died, and Joel collapses, and everyone disappears.
Yeah, it was gross. It was much more horrifying than any of the deaths in that game.
Yep, totally. So, I just want to talk about some other parts that I thought were interesting.
Go for
it. When I did that comparison between, that 15-minute section between part 1 and Remastered, there were a few things I picked up on. There are parts. There's this bit where you're having your first conversation with Ellie, and you're like, "Oh, I don't have to know why I'm smuggling you. That's fine. I don't care. I'm aloof. I'm a and they're all shitty at each other for no reason because they're strangers.
Yeah.
And you're walking through this corridor of apartments that's derelict, and the difference between the details of what's in these corridors is great. Like, first of all, Ellie doesn't start having that conversation with you until she's inside with you. Because I know the last time I played this game, she started that conversation outside and then was behind me the whole time, and I couldn't hear her half of the conversation. And I noticed this time that she specifically moves forward fast enough before she starts that conversation with you, so you don't only hear half of it. So little stuff like that is good. In the remaster, in the 2014 version, there's this one intact cardboard box that's just in the corridor. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, this cardboard box survived for 20 years?
There's a few things like that. We're not up to it yet, but I've watched...
This is a 2014 game, mind you.
Yeah. But there's some other way around things like that. So there's in the scene where spoilers for the game, but like I think it's pretty obvious at this point. When Henry or Sam, whichever one is the little brother, turns into a clicker or starts to turn, the apartment that they're in is quite run down and abandoned and etc. In the new version, it looks completely wrong, and it looks like half of a stage for like an amateur theater show. Like, they've got a couple of choice props to set a scene, but they didn't have anything else to fill the apartment, but it looks so set. It looks like it's bizarre. It's really
maybe that's because weird. They couldn't make it that much more new because of all their performances. Like,
I don't know.
Like, maybe they walk around too much or whatever.
Maybe. I don't know.
So yeah, in the original version of the game, there are these cardboard boxes that just put in the middle of the corridor. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, there's no way this random cardboard box survived for 20 years. It would be destroyed or like wet or like broken. And then there's also just like a pile of bottles around a turn in the corridor at the corner. Not like in the corner out of the way, in the corner in the way, like at where you would walk through. And it's clearly just there for you to walk through it and trigger sounds and you to be like, whoa, the bottle's moved. It's 2013 and that's rare. And so like seeing that done much more naturally in the remake was quite satisfying, because but not only was there this cardboard box, but it was this one cardboard box 3 times in this corridor. There were 3 separate boxes that were all the same asset. And it was like, oh, you can kick this around. Great.
Yeah.
In the remake, there's a non-interactable cardboard box on the side of the room that's completely fucked. It's so destroyed. It's warped. It's wrinkled. It's bust at seams. Like, it's wet, so it's completely soggy and useless. I'm like, great, that's awesome. There's also a pile of newspapers that you walk through that are also soggy, and that does the sort of interaction moment for you. And it's so much more believable in terms of what's there.
Sure.
I think what the stuff that they've changed the best in this remake has been the environments. Like, just when you look at the environments in the remaster, almost everything is a square, or like it's actually quite primitive in terms of what its shape is. Like, there's only so many square boxes in the warehouses, and you start to see them repeating if you look for more than a second. And all of the props start to look pretty recycled and manufactured. And the waist-high cover throughout the game is really static and non-interesting. But now it's more like different crumbled concrete pillars, or different colored like barrels and stuff like that with stuff on top of it. Like, everything is so much more varied and realistic now that I'm not being pulled out anywhere near as frequently as I was playing the remaster. Because, the remaster always had a trouble with characters' eyes in engine. When you're doing a stealth kill and you like turn the camera around and you look at them, their eyes always looked funny. They were always catching the light the wrong way, and it always kind of looked a bit weird to me, I felt. And in the new version, the eyes sometimes catch a little wrong, but most of the time, I feel like if I see like there's an enemy dead on the road, or like an NPC that's been killed by another NPC that I go look at later, I feel like when I look at their face or I look at their models now, I feel much more like I'm looking at and believing what they're trying to show me, like someone who is dead. Like, I'm looking at a body rather than like a ragdoll physics simulation.
Which is interesting, because I think that this might just be what it's like, but because they're like, the Digital Foundry goes into it, their eye tech is like extraordinarily good. I almost never once, when I was going through the cutscenes and playing the game, felt like that any of the characters were really looking at each other.
In the remake?
Yep.
Oh, I disagree. Yeah. I really enjoy how they...
I think the animation around the eyes is great. The squinting and the adjustments in the light, and the way their eyebrows are like, closing over like their eyes and stuff. Like, I think all that stuff is really good, but I think that they're not looking at each other. I feel like they were just looking past each other, because I was trying to figure out like what's just throwing me off just that little bit, because the faces look so good. And like, I think they just weren't. I just felt like they weren't actually looking at each other, which was bizarre.
I don't feel that way personally. I've always had it be that one of the critiques that my mum would always have when I was playing something was like, "Oh, it looks strange." And she'd always talk about the eyes. She'd always say, "Oh, the eyes always look weird."
It was the same that my dad used to say as well.
And I definitely feel that infinitely times more on the older version of the game than in this one. It's the thing that would pull me out so frequently when I was out of cutscene was the eyes.
Yeah, right.
And that rudimentary gameplay. That first time when you get into a gunfight and there's these dudes leaning on the cover and it's just these square boxes in the middle of the street. Like, I can believe what those are in the environment now because of the work that they've done remodeling the environments. And that goes such a long way for me, just being enthralled and being engaged by the game in a way that doesn't let me go. I don't get let go by this remake anywhere near as frequently. I'm getting sucked in and engrossed in a way that I haven't, I think, maybe ever playing this game. And part of that, as always, the tale as old as time that I've told about 100 times in this podcast, is because when I played it originally, I played it with someone else and we were making jokes the whole time.
Yeah.
But I could never recapture the seriousness and the gravitas and the just the engrossed nature of it. I can with this remake now, which for me is worth quite a lot, because I always felt like I was never going to get the chance to have that. And while I know the plot points, I know what's coming, the quality of this remake and how it's done is pulling me through in a way that I thought was always going to be lost for me for this game, which I am very excited about personally.
I think because I had a really positive experience when I first played it, I I'm actually getting not frustrated, but I'm seeing those seams more, I think, than I ever was, because I know what I'm getting, obviously, like you do, but I'm looking at it and I'm going, like, it's like going back to, what's a good example? It'd be like watching the final season of Better Call Saul and then watching the first season of Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's loose. It's fine. It's good. And I know it's good.
It's not refined.
They were learning still. They are always learning.
Yeah.
And it's outdated. And we've come further. And to give me
like, to see the new and the old together.
To give me yesterday's lunch for today's dinner it's not as nice as it would have been when I had it yesterday at midday.
That's true, but they didn't just put it in the microwave for 45 seconds. They turned the oven on and they put it in there for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah, but
you know what I mean?
when you rebake chips, it's still never as good as when it was first fried.
No, but it's better going in the oven than it is coming out of the microwave.
Yeah, sure, but the microwave in this instance is paying for PlayStation Now, and the oven in this case is like we've got given you The Last of Us Part 1.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I either wanted more or I wanted less. I think it's a weird mix of, like, I don't want them to do this again.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't want them to do this with Uncharted 4. They haven't, because it's already.
They just did. They've already done it.
Yeah, but they didn't remake all the assets of Uncharted 4, but keep the same game. They just brought them. Like,
that was actually just a remaster.
Yeah. You know,
and it wasn't as much money.
And it's not like the Demon Souls remake from Bluepoint was running on the old Demon Souls engine, right? They remade Demon Souls. Demon Souls. This is it's weird. It's a weird fucking product, and I think it's limiting itself while also trying to be more than what it is.
Yeah, and it's a weird business decision as well. It's not weird for who Sony is in 2022. Like, it makes sense for what the decisions they've been making. But this dogmatic approach to, our best games have been Naughty Dog games. We've got to make sure that we can sell them more and again and for more money. I think that's so cynical and awful.
This starting at a different studio is what really is, like, that's what really sells it, right? In terms of, like, this was a decision made by not a creative. Was so that you can detail it.
Well, actually, I was just about to read from the bottom of this article that I foreshadowed before in Fanbyte, and they go into some of this stuff here. So I'll read what they wrote about the origins of this game that we know. This is Kenneth Shepard again from The Last of Us Part 1's problem isn't price, it's hubris on fanbyte.com. Public knowledge of the remake began a year before it was unveiled at Summer Game Fest 2022, as a Bloomberg report revealed Sony's Visual Arts Service Group, a support team within the company's first-party ecosystem, began work on a PlayStation 5 version of The Last of Us as part of an initiative to expand upon PlayStation's biggest franchises.
Sorry, just to jump in really, really quickly, I just realized I was cleaning my glasses off camera and it probably looked really sus. Sorry, continue.
I think that every time I blow my nose off camera, like, I go there wondering, do people think I'm doing, like, lines of cocaine or something?
Yeah, Kerry, I think that all the time. If there's one thing I think about you, it's lines of coke.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's pretty coherent to, like, my character and my methods and what I like to do outside of work. So I can understand why you think that. So the second paragraph here, according to the report about Sony's Visual Arts Service Group, the team was never properly acknowledged by Sony and wasn't given the budget to hire more people. Instead, Naughty Dog employees were brought onto the project, and the dynamic shifted as Last of Us veterans were now attached to a remake of the game they'd worked on 2 console generations prior. Eventually, the remake shifted almost entirely over to Naughty Dog, and much of the leadership from Sony's Visual Arts Service Group has since left the company. That's pretty damning of like the higher ups just making something happen, and like there's a mismanagement there in terms of the visual arts service group getting it done. Maybe they wanted it done faster or whatever. Maybe it's because they set visual arts services group and then they decided to do the HBO series, and then they're like, oh, we need this out faster and better. But like pulling the rug out from your team is no way to be, and that's clear by the fact that their lead creatives from this studio left as a result, seemingly. Maybe not necessarily, but seemingly as a result of this. What? Why are you eating so suspiciously, Jeremy?
Broccoli.
Broccoli? Okay, so that's near the top of the article. I'm going to jump to the bottom now because this is a really salient point. And again, I recommend everyone reads this article. The final two paragraphs are here like this. Whether I think the game is worth your money isn't the issue. It's that Sony is releasing The Last of Us again on PlayStation 5 and raising all these questions about its value in an act of hubris. It's a profit-driven assertion that Naughty Dog's post-apocalyptic story is such a cultural moment that it needed to be redone to meet modern standards a third time, less than 10 years after its original PlayStation 3 release, and while it's readily playable by cheaper means. It's all in the service of expanding it into a multimedia franchise it can capitalize on to the detriment of whatever integrity it might have had before as Sony chases the prestige of Naughty Dog's catalog and, according to reports, at the expense of its other studios' autonomy. The Last of Us Part 1 is a definitive version, but it's a caricature of the game that launched in 2013. It was a game often cited in tiresome conversations on whether or not AAA games can be art. Yep. But 9 years later, The Last of Us Part 1 is a reminder that for as artistic as they can be, to the people making big decisions, they're simply products to be dragged back onto the assembly line, packaged, and sold.
I'm so glad people smarter than me can capture the points that I've been trying to say for a long time in just so much better words.
Me too, Jeremy. This whole article, I'm going to say it for the fourth time, and then I promise, but it really is fantastic and worth the read if you're interested in the topic at all.
And we've been talking about this, right? Because whenever we talk about like the strategies of the studios and all this stuff, and we talk about how like, you know, Xbox have got a platform but they don't have any games, and Nintendo are doing, you know, making Mario games forever, which is not a bad thing at all.
With an expiry date.
Yeah. They're making temporary Mario games. The prestige is the thing that we always talk about with Sony, right? It's the like, hey, like we make games and the Sony logo put on it means something. Which is why Last of Us TV show going to HBO is just the most dreadful match made in heaven in the world, considering that HBO's whole thing is like, it's home box office, right? That's what HBO stands for. It's cutting edge television.
Yeah, bleeding edge, no limits.
Yeah. Like you're gonna see tits and ass in episodes of television, right? No cock.
Maybe
though.
even a penis.
No. When are we going to see our first rectum in like? Cowards! Show me the rectum of Joel Miller.
I demand sphincters.
You know, like it's they've been chasing they've been chasing that that high of like that era of like, hey, they brought out Uncharted 3 and then they brought out The Last of Us, and then it was Uncharted 4
year later.
Yeah, right. And then like Uncharted 4 came out a few years later. They launched the PS4. They had, you know, like a slightly rocky launch in terms of releases, but then they started like a banger after banger of like really high quality games. And then I think the downfall probably started when like Days Gone came out, and they weren't releasing as many great games, and it was like I don't
know if we can classify it as a downfall.
Not a downfall, but people started to look at the brand and I think associate less with what the Sony first party exclusive can mean. When there was some less than I suppose like God of War and stuff was still coming out, and Death Stranding, and there was still some still some high quality.
For me, the biggest
stuff.
disappointment was The Last of Us Part 2.
You didn't play Days Gone though.
True.
It's they've got this era of prestige in them where they want to deliver nothing but the highest quality content
Yeah.
at all times. And
yeah, but
when
Sony
they don't,
seemingly wants it more frequently than they can produce. So they're just...
yes.
It's so strange that we're getting Uncharted The Lost Legacy remasters and The Last of Us Part 1 remake in 9 months apart from each other, and we still don't have the multiplayer mode that was meant to launch with The Last of Us Part 2 2+ years ago. Like, it all feels out of whack. It all feels off.
And they are, I feel like, reluctantly and begrudgingly releasing games on PC. Maybe even just because the studios want to do it and they know it's an easy way to make money. And so Sony are like, okay, fine, you can release it, but we're going to be charging $100 per game or more.
Yeah, I know, which is outrageous.
It's a bizarre thing, much like this game.
Yep. Jeremy, do you have any other thoughts? Any stray thoughts? Any notes?
They fixed the bottle. They fixed the liquid in the bottle when Tess pours Joel a drink. They fixed it, and it's good now. It used to use the same consistently spinning drink thinger that I believe comes from the liquid in the Molotov that Joel carries around whenever he's got one out. That
is always active because it's not sitting on a table.
And so whenever he used to take a drink, it would be like it would stop spinning, and he put the cup down, and it would just keep spinning, and they fixed it, and it's good now. I thought the water looked great.
Yeah.
Like, the water looks really good. The reflections,
I have to say,
I
think
really
all
great.
of the environments look amazing, personally.
Yeah. Like, they are all really, really, really well done.
Like, all of those side rooms in all of the offices and the office building and the warehouses, all of those side rooms you can go into, and only half of them have stuff in them, and some of them do and some of them don't. I care about the ones that are empty now, and I never did before. I find there is more in there for me to not be taken out of it and not be like, oh, nothing in here, gonna keep going. Like, I'll look at the desks now, and I'll look at the sticky notes, and in the skyscraper that's tilted on its side, in the reception area, they've got a wall, they've got a place where they put their awards, their placards, and all of the awards are slanted because the building's slanted. And I'm pretty sure that wasn't there in the original. I looked at that like, oh, wow.
That's cool.
Yeah. Or there's like spider webs in warehouses now. There's whole like colonies of spiders in the corner of rooms now because it's completely derelict, right? And so there's like
fun.
Little spider villages where you could see their bundles of prey.
Yeah, right. Sorry, just out of nowhere, my mum's partner texted me, and he doesn't know that I watched it the other day, but he texted me saying, watched Maverick. Be interested in a review after you do. Start with a score out of 10. And I can't wait to just reply back to him with 9.8.
Yeah, little does he know that you are bursting at the seams to talk about this movie.
I should shave. I should get the mustache going and reply back saying, like, with a picture of me with the mustache saying, does this answer your question?
Yep.
Yeah, like I just wanted to. I don't know. I wanted just a bit more. I just wanted to feel good. It feels fine. I want it to feel great. I want it to feel like The Last of Us 1 first felt the first time I played it, which I'm like, oh fuck, it's so dynamic, right?
Yeah, it's hard because, when you're saying you want more or you want less, the problem with wanting, with them going for more, aside from what you said before, this is what they haven't decided to make that, and that's an entirely different thing. It would take way longer. They risk making it worse and then getting a lot of people angry at them, right? Whereas right now, all they've done is preserve this game that is very, very loved. It's a safe way to play it. But
for playing The Last of Us PS4 version is backwards compatible. There's no preservation conversation at all because you can just play it. What
True,
they
that's
could,
a good point.
if they were worried about that, then they could have just released the game on, like, it's on PlayStation Plus, isn't it?
It's on PlayStation Plus. It's also part of the PlayStation Plus collection. You can get it at the first tier.
Yeah, you can just play it.
More than that, it's like $25 brand new.
It's
Or you
cheap
could find a
as.
pre-owned copy for $9.
You could find it for less.
Yeah.
You listener, your friend's got a copy of that game, right? Like it's it's around.
June has 3 copies of that game, and they hate it.
Yeah, get one of theirs. You listener, get a copy of Last of Us from June. Like it's still there. It's not like it's Demon Souls where it's like a launch PS3 game trapped on a system that you have to plug in now.
Totally. It's so accessible in the previous version, yeah.
And so it's like, if they had done, imagine if they were able to do the work to really bring this in line with The Last of Us Part 2. Like, imagine if these were companion pieces, right? Like, imagine if this was the game where you are fucking battered all the way through. You can like, fuck it, change the story then. Like, really go ham, redo the whole thing.
Whoa.
Like,
you would hate that.
I'd hate it, but like, I'd hate it, but I hate it in the way that The Last of Us 2 I don't like, which is, man, I really didn't like the direction with that story. But fuck, that
I don't
game
like what they tried, but they did try it.
Yeah, and also, fuck me, that game was good to play.
Yeah.
Like, what a smooth, solid experience that was, like, gripping from beginning to end, even if I was confused and angry.
Yeah, totally.
I've said this before. I hate mediocre art a lot, genuinely, because it's a lack of faith in your product a lot of the time, or it's a design by committee oftentimes.
Yeah, or it's a monetary decision.
Yeah, right. And I think why The Last of Us 2 works for me is a thing I don't like is because I had such an emotional reaction to the entirety of the game because it swung for the fence and it missed me completely.
Yeah.
But fuck did I care about it.
Yeah, totally. We both did. I'll always remember us not playing side by side, but finishing at the same time and then talking about it on the podcast. I was actually thinking to myself, I really want to, having played this, I want to play part 2, but also I want to go back and listen to our initial thoughts.
You finally going to do your thingo?
I think if it doesn't happen now, then it's never going to happen. This
I think so.
Hypothetical video essay, but
because it was between that and the PS5 version of 2 coming out, right? It was which one were you going to wait for? Yeah,
because it's got a PS5 patch. I wouldn't mind.
Yeah,
I've got just a couple of notes and then like a bit of a conclusion here.
Cool.
So, you're playing on Grounded. I've been playing on Hard. I thought that they had changed Hard's difficulty curve too much. Like, it seemed that it was actually quite easy for Hard. What I think actually happened is they tuned the difficulty curve so that it's still easy in the tutorial levels, it's still easy at the start, and then it gets back up to where it was by the time you get to the second half of Billstown and into Pittsburgh. Like, it became as hard as I remembered it being later, which I think is it was a very positive decision. So you're not getting like one tapped in the first 2 encounters, which was an experience I was having when I replayed those sections about a month ago. So I do like the tweaks they've made there. Overall, I love the amount of options they've included, new stuff and old stuff from The Last of Us Part 2, making this more accessible. You know, this is going to be the only version that some people could play in terms of accessibility. Their accessibility suite here is absolutely outstanding. And so that's great. That's awesome. And I do stand by the fact that, like, what did I write here? I can't find it. Oh yeah, what an amazing experience this would be if this game was your first time. Like, I still stand by that wholeheartedly. I wish I could have that experience.
Yeah, I agree that I agree with that, while saying that I think the best version of this game is you playing it in 2014 on the PS4. I think that if you didn't get to do that, then this is the best way to do it.
Yeah, totally. The Game Help, the PlayStation Plus exclusive tips and cards, it's legitimately excellent in this game, Jeremy.
Of course it is. It's a first-party game.
No. It's better in a way that I haven't seen before in the previous ones. It tracks all of the achievements in terms of like percentage completed, but also when you access when it shows you each chapter, it's like, oh, you're in the Pittsburgh chapter. When you access that one, if you go to the hints tab, it will show you nearby collectibles first with a small blurb, and you can just use that as a vague hint to be like, oh, wait around for Ellie to say something. You'd be like, oh, I don't know. And say if you don't want to be just shown the answer and then you do it, because that kind of spoils it a bit. But you want a hint. You don't want to miss everything.
Yeah.
That's a really, really good way to not have to pull up a video, see all the stuff you've collected before, and like scrub through and miss bits and listen to some guy talking you don't want to. You can just read a blurb. I think that their collectible hint implementation in this game specifically is really stellar, honestly.
Okay.
I'm actually quite excited to platinum this game, if I feel so inclined, using their...
It means going through Grounded, my friend.
No, it doesn't. There's no difficulty trophies in the remake.
Oh, what the fuck am I doing then?
What are you doing for the trophy?
Why isn't there a difficulty trophy?
Because platinums are easier than they used to be. And because The Last of Us' trophy list is so notoriously awful.
Well, yeah, but it was notoriously awful, not because of the difficulty, but it was notoriously awful because of the fucking multiplayer trophies they used to have.
That as well. But honestly, having to complete it on like survival mode plus, I'd get me away from it.
Oh, but Grounded was optional. It wasn't even part of the platinum in the past.
Okay, yeah, sure. But like, you could still have that sense of achievement by completing it on Grounded mode, Jeremy.
I don't want achievement, I want validation.
So funny. Yeah, no, there's no difficulty.
Why did they make the bow reticle worse?
Because it's more in line with part 2. But in the options, you can set it back to standard, which I did immediately. I go through the options before I start a game, and I just put it back to how it was.
Ugh, it sucks.
You can do that.
I should do that because it's bad.
Yeah, you should do that. There's one final sort of the way I'll finish this here. When I did that comparison of the two 15-minute sections, I was struck by something, which was this section of this game, you know, early on, that I'd played a month ago on the PS4 version of the game. I was playing it again on the PS4 version of the game, and I was still getting hooked in. I was still enjoying the performances, the audio work, the gameplay, the environment detail. Even though it's more rudimentary than it is in the remake, I was still getting sucked in. I was still engrossed, even if it was less. Even I getting pulled out in smaller bits more frequently, more momentarily. You know, all the details we've spoken about as being, you know, good that they replaced in the remake. I was still having an excellent time playing The Last of Us Remastered PS4 version yesterday. Like, in no way is this a compromised version of this game. I think that's...
No.
In no way is it compromised. In some ways, it's more complete, having the actual factions mode. If you want to play this game, or you haven't played it before, or you've been looking forward for a reason to playing it, but you can't afford the thing, or you've only got a PS4 Pro or a PS4, just play the remaster. The game is still fantastic, and the thing that makes The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5 most fantastic is the game that is still fantastic on the PS4. Just because this waist-high barrel is like higher detail and the texture quality is more impressive, and like there's spider webs in the corner of this warehouse compared to in the remake where it isn't, it is not enough to detract from the original experience, especially because they kept updating The Last of Us Remastered. It's not like it came out in 2014 and then they didn't touch it again. When the PS4 Pro came out, they updated it. There's a 4K 30 FPS mode that you can play of that game, or 1800p at a locked 60 frames per second. That's amazing. Like, honestly...
The new one doesn't even hit 4K.
No, it hits 4K.
Oh.
It does.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. I thought it was hitting 1440 and they were calling that 4K.
No, it's so what they said was that they were calling the performance mode like dynamic 4K, but that one was always 1440p. The performance mode was always 1440p.
Right, okay.
The full 4K mode is 4K. Yeah, I I think this remake is good. I think if you enjoy this game, it's a good excuse to enjoy it again. I personally can't justify it for the price. We did to have this discussion. We really wanted to, but if I was buying this for myself outside of an industry discussion context, it's not worth it to me for the $70. JB was selling it for so cheap. Not so cheap. It was only $100 from JB, right? Which is actually what it should have been sold for at MSRP. And like I would say only buy it for that much at most, and probably wait until it's cheaper and buy it for less. But you're not missing out if you only can play the original. If all of this humdrum and stuff like that has got you wanting to get into it, or the show comes out and you can only play the PS4 version, just play the PS4 version. Yeah. You're still gonna cry, everybody. You'll still cry. It'll be all right.
Yeah, I agree. It's just like play the best version of the game you can play is the one you can play right now. Like just it's fine. Like you might have a better time playing it with the new version, and that's good for you if you do, great. But like you're not missing anything by not playing the new version. I don't know. I think the scenes are better in the old one.
The scenes, the cutscenes,
yeah.
They're different. I'm not going to say that they're better, but I enjoy them in the new one. I think there's plenty to enjoy in the new package.
I think they're good in the new one, but I think they were just better in the old one. Okay. It's my old man complain about when the graphics being better doesn't make the scene nicer complaint that I will have every time anyone apparently makes any remake of any game ever is, hey, you made this look better, and yet I think it looks worse because you didn't understand what you are making.
Yeah.
And I will continue to die on this hill because...
So many deaths on this hill.
Because they continue to not know what they're making. They being
I think Naughty Dog.
No,
I think Naughty Dog have a good idea of what they made.
I'm being facetious, but I think that a lot of the time when a remake comes out, they do miss out on the setting and the mood and the vibe and the tone. The tone is so important. If a game has got dog shit story and shithouse characters, but tone, I'll love it.
Ah, Deadly Premonition, I hear. Squeaking in my ear.
That game doesn't have tone.
Oh, doesn't it?
No, that game's vibes are so off.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the vibes are very, very, very overtly off in that game. Like, I'm trying to think of an example with like a really shitty movie, but like the tone is on. And I'm trying to think of I think Atomic Blonde wasn't a very good film and didn't have a very good story or characters, but I think that the vibes of that movie were really good. Actually, you know what? The 2016 Godzilla film with Bryan Cranston, the vibes in that movie...
You do love that one.
The vibes in that film are fucking excellent. They are immaculate. All the characters, don't give a shit. Bryan Cranston dies first 15 minutes, don't fucking care at all. Alan Taylor Johnson and the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, they're married, they got a kid, don't give a shit about them at all. But that Halo drop...
Olsen in that.
Yes, that Halo drop sequence where they jump out of the fucking plane and the audio is just like the air going past, like the ear things that they got wearing on their head, and they got the flares attached to their feet, and they are dropping into what looks like fucking hell because it is this Tokyo covered by clouds and you have no idea what's below it, and below it you see them almost fucking hit the lizard. It is fucking so cool. We're watching this after in the post show, Kerry, but let me tell you, vibes of Godzilla 2016 are fucking on, mate.
Well, everyone, that ends this week's segment of Vibe Check. and our segment on The Last of Us Part 1. Thank you for listening. I'm glad we got to do this. I'm glad we did go for it. The reviews were coming out last week, and I kept messaging you, Jeremy, being like, are we really doing this? Like, all of the reviews saying, like,
Yeah.
you don't need to get this, you can wait. And I was like, are we really doing this, Jeremy? And we did, and I'm glad. Because this discussion is fun, and it's been bubbling and percolating for months now in the lead up to this project coming out. So I'm glad we did that. Thank you for coming along for the ride with us, audience, whether you're listening or watching. We really appreciate it. Let me just pull up my script here so I don't mess things up, because it'll just be like my totally flawless intro at the start of the show we're about to head into. So, thank you for listening. I feel a good deal of closure, and I am excited to get into the game a bit more and get to the end and see if I feel like going straight into part 2, or maybe writing the start of a script. I think this is going to be the start of it. Stick around next week, or rather, come back next week. Don't stick around for a whole week. We're not going to be here until next week. But when we come back next week,
if you'd like.
I mean, you can. I would recommend doing something else.
I wouldn't.
But we'll be back next week to discuss ranking the Mario games. We'll have to determine what that actually means in the next 7 days, but we will. Don't worry. Come back then. And follow us along our socials at MiniMapAU. That's Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and TikTok to see when that video goes live and when we start streaming next week as well. You can follow us individually too on Twitter. Jeremy is there on Twitter at
the old man yelling at remakes.
That's fairly accurate. You can also follow me on Twitter at KJPalmer_24. You can head to minimap.com.au to see everything else Minimap related. I swear, I've said this for weeks now, I swear, the pecking order, the newest episode of the pecking order, Crazy Frog, it's this close to coming out. It's so close. I tried to do it last week, but it turns out I didn't have access to the podcast backend, but I do now. It's happening. It's coming. I swear to you. Look forward to that. We've got more episodes coming down the pipeline after that one comes out. For those of you live with us on Twitch, stick around. We're going to be watching Godzilla, apparently. And for those of you listening on a podcast service or after the fact on YouTube, make sure to give us a 5-star rating, a thumb up, a plus, a tick, a positive rating. It means a lot to us. It goes a long way to helping the podcast. And consider joining us next week live if you want to sit in the chat, talk to us like Buddy was, like Sam was. It's a great time. Lastly, you can also support us on Patreon if you want to help keep the lights and mics on. You can do that by heading on over to patreon.com/minimapau. And for $5 Australian, you can ask us questions to answer on the podcast, or while helping us out greatly. I think this is a pretty good show, Jeremy.
I think so too. It's fun.
I think we did it.
Much less exhausting than doing 3/4 of a show in VR.
So much less exhausting. I think I am going to believe that it has been a week next week when we come back and think back to last week, which will have been this week. And I think it will feel like it has actually been a week since that last week has passed. Unlike this week, looking back on last week, thinking about the last week. No? You didn't follow? That was crystal clear. Well, while we ponder that, we're going to leave everybody. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.